Jake Heaps is back on BYU Sports Nation. Jake, long time no talk. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, Jarom. It has been a while, but good things never go away, and so it's always good talking with you.
Absolutely, thank you. It's been a wild journey for you. Obviously, BYU, Kansas, Miami, into the NFL. Now you're coaching quarterbacks. You're on ESPN 710 Seattle, which I listen to for the Mariners broadcast and whatnot and coverage of the Seahawks. So how's life been since BYU?
It's been great. It's been a whirlwind, I'll tell you what. Obviously, my college career, it was a journey for sure. Going from BYU to Kansas to Miami, learned a lot about myself as a person and also as a player. And ultimately, I firmly believe that it made me a better football player, a better husband, and a better brother and father and all those things, and just gave me perspective. And also having the chance to play in the National Football League, have a short career that I did, it was amazing getting a chance to play at that level, experience that level, what that's like, what those rooms like, how it is on the field. It was truly an amazing experience. And now getting a chance to coach, to give back, to work with Russell Wilson himself, to the next college greats, to the the next up and coming high school talent, and all the way down to youth level. I enjoy every single level, and then getting to do the media side. It's different, but I love it, and it's been a blast getting to break down teams and getting to break down individual players and really try to educate in terms of what are realistic expectations.
Well, let's tap into your analyst mind now, because BYU obviously has a talented freshman, now sophomore quarterback in Zach Wilson. What do you think of Wilson after his 7 starts last year and the opportunity to go up against 4 Power 5s out of the gate?
Yeah, if you're Zach Wilson, this isn't a better opportunity. You've got obviously a very tough schedule at the beginning to really make a statement for yourself. And to me, I'll just say this right out of the gate, Jarom, I believe that Zach Wilson is a first-round talent. Firmly believe that. And it's not overhyped. The kid has it. He's got the size. He has the arm talent. He has the athletic ability. He's got things that I certainly didn't have. I wasn't a dual threat guy, but I believe that Zach Wilson over time has that ability to be a first-round pick. Do I believe he's there now? No, that's the difference. I'm not saying that he's a first-round pick right now, but I believe that he has that talent, and that's what he has in his future if things were to go right. When you watch last season, there were obviously games where his talent flashed and shined through in a major way. There was also times last year that I think this offense as a whole was going through growing pains, trying to figure out their identity, trying to figure out how Zach Wilson molds and meshes with the offensive philosophy that they have. And there were definite growing pains for Zach Wilson as well, being efficient, processing, learning reads and coverages, and maximizing that talent that he has around him. And so I look into this year, and you're going to run into a gauntlet of a 4-game stretch here where you're going against some pretty great talent. And obviously Utah being game 1, I don't know how I feel about that, Jarom, honestly. To me, that's always seems to be a game that's kind of sacred for the end of the year. And I know it's been played in week 3 a bunch, but gosh, it just seems weird to have that be game number 1. But, I mean, I guess why not, right?
Yeah, why not? And I want to talk about Utah more in a second, but Zach Wilson had 7 starts, obviously punctuated by an incredible performance in the bowl game, 18 for 18, 4 touchdowns. His pass efficiency was like 1 million or whatever. It was just an amazing game. But what did you see in those 7 starts that made you feel like, okay, this guy could be a first-rounder?
Well, you just saw growth, and obviously I think the first thing first that goes sometimes it's an obvious thing, but sometimes it goes underrated in terms of a quality is every great quarterback has to have supreme confidence. And Zach Wilson oozes confidence. He oozes swagger. It's just kind of built in his DNA. It's not fake. It's not something that's self-generated. It's just he has that it factor about him. And so I think that was, despite his struggles, even during his good times, but despite the struggles, he still had that sense of presence about him, which is key. And I didn't see him get rattled at all. And the other part of it too is once he felt comfortable, once he started trusting what he was seeing, the ball was jumping off his hand. He was throwing with great anticipation. The location of every throw was right where it needed to be, and guys weren't having to go out of their way to make great plays. And to top it all off, Zach does an amazing job being able to extend plays, create plays with his legs, and really be a threat for defenses. So he's a guy that's multidimensional that makes it really hard on defensive coordinators. And I'm really excited, Jarom, to see what this offense can look like in year two. Now knowing that Zach Wilson is going to be your quarterback, trying to utilize his strengths and the talent around him, what this offense is going to look like. Because last year, especially during the early part, this group was very, very conservative.
Absolutely, and that conservative game plan works at times, say at Wisconsin, but not necessarily against everybody, right? Now Utah comes in with a stout defense, returns Tyler Huntley and Zach Moss in the battery of quarterback and running back, and Britton Covey, talented offense. What do you think of the matchup with Utah right out of the game?
Yeah, this is going to be a great litmus test. This is going to be a great test for BYU to see truly where they're at defensively and offensively, and more importantly, offensively. Do they have their identity? Like you said, versus Wisconsin, their conservative approach, their downhill attack, their ball control offense was great, and it played right in the hands of into that game for them to win. I believe versus Utah, you got to do a little bit more than that, though. This Utah defense and this Utah team as a whole, Jarom, I know there's a lot of hype around them, but it's all very real, and it's there for a reason. Might be the most talented group that Utah has had in quite some time on both sides of the ball. And obviously the big question for Utah, and this has been the question over the past few years with Utah, is they've always had a great defense, but they've always been very inconsistent on offense. And if they can turn that offense into some consistency, this is a group that has a great chance of winning the Pac-12 if that offense can turn things around and be a consistent performer. So for BYU, this is going to be a great challenge for Zach Wilson, and they're really going to have their work cut out for them. So it's going to be a fun physical matchup. It always is. There's so much emotion that goes into that game, but you're going to find out exactly where they stand right away.
Talking with Jake Heaps on BYU Sports Nation, former Cougar quarterback, now analyst and QB coach. You're in Seattle, so you're intimately familiar with Washington. This is an interesting group because Chris Peterson always reloads, yet this is unique in that they're replacing 9 starters on defense. Obviously, Browning and Gaskin in the quarterback running back spot, but you have Jacob Eason, you have Savon Ahmed. How do you expect Washington to be in Game 4 against BYU?
Yeah, hopefully by Game 4 for Washington, they will have found their stride a little bit. They'll be rolling in terms of their offensive philosophy. This is a group, when we talk about BYU's offensive philosophy, UW really struggled in that area. They've got a ton of talent, even though they lose a lot of defensive starters. Defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake is one of the best in the entire country. UW is in a space right now where they have built an elite program. They've got guys just waiting in the wings to take the next step. And so from that standpoint, UW is going to be just fine defensively. They've got amazing talent and a very good defensive culture. Offensively, they lose a lot of their playmakers, like you mentioned, but they do return almost all of their offensive linemen, 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen. Their running backs, although you lose the best running back in Pac-12 history and Myles Gaskin statistically, Savon Ahmed and the guys they have behind him are definitely going to be good enough to replace that production. The big question is quarterback. With Jacob Eason and Jake Haener, it is, as the narrative has been, you would think that Jacob Eason would be named the starter by now, but he hasn't. And by all accounts, this has been a very close quarterback battle for Chris Peterson. So that part of it is intriguing, and it's also concerning because you're less than 2 weeks away from your first game. And so for Husky fans, they are very nervous in terms of how this quarterback battle is going, what that means for this offense, and with an offense that struggled last year at times and failing to produce a single touchdown in the Pac-12 championship game versus Utah last year. So this is a group that's wanting to get things going, wanting to find their rhythm and offensive identity, and hopefully by week 4 for them, they have found that, but hopefully for BYU, they have not.
And we have about 30 seconds left. Are you going to pursue the XFL? I saw you were invited to the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to pursue it. I was invited to be part of the draft, like you mentioned, and I think there's a great opportunity out there in the XFL. And life happens, so you never know what's going to come to fruition. And but the XFL opportunity, I really feel like Vince McMahon, Jim Zorn, Oliver Luck, they've got this situation under more control than the AAF did. Financially, they're going to be there, and they're going to have a great product, and would love to be a part of it, especially here in Seattle.
Well, awesome. We wish you the best of luck in the draft there in a couple months. And great to talk to you. Appreciate the time, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jarom. Let's do it again soon.